or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Those places under pretty much all of those names, Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. You're going to be able to find us as we continue our mission to talk more about the things affecting us here in the borderland. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in over there already, including Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Monica Cervantes, dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate it because of, well, just how it works with the platform here. It's we can get into specifics if you ever really want to meet up and talk about it, but really it just helps, well, further the mission. Get more people talking about the things that we got going on here, and there's a lot going on today, particularly on our docket. Oddly surprising here today, the fact that given the conversation we've been having about certain aspects of local elected governments, particularly when it comes to city council and the differences, changes, possibilities surrounding the city manager form of government, the vestiges of the strong mayor form that we have previously had, but then also coming out today, the fact that there is, well, maybe a shift coming there because El Paso City Manager has now been named as a finalist for the same position for another Texas city, Frisco, Texas, specifically, as reported on by our news partners over at KFOX 14. So we're definitely going to get into that, plus a whole lot more going on here with all the things we're talking about and discussing here, including, on border issues. Prosecution successful for Governor Greg Abbott's efforts to have state-level prosecution for, trespassing and what that means going forward. Plus, guest this show is going to be David Adams, GOP candidate for the nomination for the Precinct 4 El Paso County Commissioner seat. We'll get into that, talk with him about his positions, and, just get ready more for that runoff that is coming up here. Again, just to keep it straight, we had that election, the one for the constitutional amendments. That one's done. So this one is going to be early voting May 16th. So coming up just this next Monday, we're right on the cusp of it. Mark your calendars. And then, of course, Election Day, May 24th. So a lot to talk about there. We're talking with him as we have other candidates in this same, position that they are vying for, even if we got a couple of different races technically at hand here because, we still got the partisan ballots to go through. So again, if you voted on one of them, you got to stick with that one. If you didn't vote on either of them, you didn't vote in the primary, I'll forgive you eventually, but you still got your chance to make your voice heard in the ballot box with this upcoming one here. So that's just a few of the things on mind here today, and of course, a lot of other stuff affecting us here in the borderland. So we'll get into those phone lines a little bit later in the program as we usually do. Comments over on social media are great throughout the show. The conversation often takes on its own tone, tenor, and pace, shall we say, over there. And so if you want to wade into that, the Thunderdome of comments and where the Skeptic Squad lives over on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, you're more than welcome to. But really, however you're tuned in, be it terrestrial radio or through any of the electronic means, you're more than welcome to stay locked in here for us here, as we are going to be going 2 hours today, 4 to 6 p.m. So let's dive into that first subject here. El Paso City Manager finalist for same position in other Texas cities. That story out by our news partners over there at KFOX 14 noted that Tommy Gonzalez, who we've had just a slight bit of discussion of the position, the compensation of, and just how city managers work here. I will admit that I had kind of lost sight of how long he's been in that position. It feels like it was Joyce Wilson just yesterday, but he's been there since 2014. And his current contract ends in 2024, but he has been named as one of top 3 finalists for the city of Frisco, Texas. Now, that being largely, a suburb of Dallas-Fort Worth, he has some interesting moves. And, of course, this was not Tommy Gonzalez's first position. Oh, no. He came from other city manager positions and has ended up with his salary being one of the, shall we say, finer points of contention with a lot of these issues, even beyond the political, the policy that has been put into place. Current compensation, as noted by our news partners, $404,377 per year. Plus, he was recognized by El Paso City Council for lifetime achievement here in April. So I guess if you're looking to make an exit, this would make a lot of sense. So I am sure, just looking at some of the stories postings from our news partners online here, a lot of interest in this and a lot of reactions kind of in a variety of ways. So interested to know what you all have to say about that. Again, can sound off over in the comments if you want to ahead of it, because I've seen, let's just say, a mix between, well, incensed and relief. Let's say that's kind of the best way to categorize these categories. So some saying that, well, we built him up, we're paying this much, and now he's going to leave us. To others saying, well, more along the lines of don't let the door hit you on the way out, kind of a sentiment, I guess, is what I'm getting here. Because, well, as much as he has had pretty good reviews, literally speaking, from city council, I mean, all of those pay increases are both contractual and to a large extent merit-based. They're built in. So there are also, rewards for performance, that kind of a thing that have been built into it to get it to this point of being mid six figures as part of compensation for this position. Definitely quite the growth over the years. I mean, yeah, that's not quite a doubling of the salary, but, well, if we were to say here through 2024, it wouldn't be potentially out of the question. I couldn't imagine. Strictly logistically speaking, whether or not there's actually the political will to do it or the contractual obligations is another issue. But of course, performance in the public eye has been, well, mixed bag, I think would be a best way to say it, because even if there are people who, well, if you want to be absolute about it, a whole lot of people that probably have no idea and are not paying attention, which is its own issues. Of those in that latter category, though, I would say there have been some that have been happy, some that have not been wanting to, have any complaints about it, and those that have been very unhappy here. I mean, just some of the reaction we get on this program here probably tends a little bit towards the latter, but there's not been exactly, well, since this is an unelected position, we don't have voting and polls to show the absolute public perception and approval of such a position. We probably need better polling in El Paso, but I know it's quite the endeavor to do it and do it correctly, because sure, you can tackle people in the street and ask them, what do you think? And, well, we'll see. John Brazelton saying that city manager wants to leave because he's not making enough money, and doing, I think, oblique reference to the previous city manager here, who, I believe, referring to Joyce Wilson there, to my understanding, is retired. So I don't see that particularly happening. Really, the way these things seem to happen is that there will be some firm hired, nationwide search done, candidates identified, and whether or not they have actually anything to do with the city or do good things for it remains to be seen here. As well as have Calvin Williams joining in on with us here. And Barbara Carrasco commenting on a different aspect of city council, saying that they were there at 8 a.m. adjourning at approximately 2 p.m. participated in the discussions pro and con on city's proposed commission/board regarding women's rights. Motion to remove item 13 from the agenda failed, to my understanding, on that item, as we did have that call from Republican Party Chair Local Office, Ray Baca, yesterday, that item did end up passing, to my understanding, 5-3 with the sponsors. And then also, I want to say, one extra voting joining in. Of those voting in favor, Cassandra Hernandez, Henry Rivera, Isabel Salcido, Alessandra Anello, and Peter Schwarzbein, with Cecilia Zarga, Claudia Rodriguez, and Joe Molinar voting against. So it has been approved. The creation of it remaining to be seen here. Maria Coleman also asking, why is the city manager needed? Make the the city council and mayor do their jobs. This guy is probably fully vested. I mean, he's been there. I'm not sure what the city's vesting schedule is. I knew the county's there for a minute, but I've dropped off it here. My anticipation, it would be probably 8 to 10 years, maybe a little less. And also, I mean, he's been getting a lot of benefits from there, so it may be something different within his contract. I wouldn't be totally surprised. But, okay, you want to go back and pull back the curtain of history here. We're talking about that there was the move. I need to figure out the exact date of it. It was before I could vote, so I don't have it exactly in my mind. But the change in the city charter to go from the strong mayor, where essentially each new mayoral administration could lead to a complete change in even business practices of the city, to essentially, I mean, it was described at the time, I do recall this, a desire for more consistency between administrations, to have the city manager style of things, which essentially means that the bureaucracy of the city stays around no matter who's elected, unless there's firings, upheavals, et cetera, but is more, let's just say, professionalized as opposed to solely elected, and therefore, the mayor having to come in, replace staff, firings, all that kind of stuff here. So if there's wanting to be review of that, Well, among other things, shall we say that ad hoc charter advisory committee that does have meetings going on through early June would kind of be the place to bring this up. Now, whether or not there'd be the total amount of political will, again, a little bit before my time and reporting on the issues here in El Paso, so I don't have total perspective on what even the discussions were at that point in time, but, well, it might be worth revisiting and reviewing because, I mean, if there's this kind of consternation about this position and being one of the easily highest paid persons within on the public roles within the county of El Paso, I mean, this is city, but I'm talking about the larger area, our broadcast area, let's just say it that way. It might be a little bit interesting to get there. And Barbara Cordasco saying today is an indication of letting city council do their job. Fire them all. Disrespect on display was rather embarrassing. So we'll get to that and a whole lot more, but we got to take that first break of the hour here right now. And coming out of this break, we're going to be talking about, well, some other elected official positions here, specifically speaking with David Adams, a GOP candidate for the nomination for the El Paso County Commissioners Precinct number 4. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Of course, your host, Andrew J. Polk. We'll get to more of the comments, more of the calls, and all that good stuff. Phone lines a little bit later in the program. But stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere. If you're thinking about dinner at this point, you're probably someone near and dear to my heart, or at the very least of a similar kind of mindset here. Sure, we got the show to get through, but planning and eating well can be a great way to, well, just take care of yourself. And let me give you a bit of advice, something I've been doing to help, well, spice that up and spice up my life. That is with everything I'm getting from Enhanced Flavors, your local source for over 40 different varieties of all extra virgin olive oils, flavored olive oils, and balsamic vinegars. Again, they've got a great display. If you've ever gotten the chance to go and see them out in person, they're often out at the Upper County Arts and Farmers Markets that happens Sundays mornings into early afternoon. They're at the Hobby Lobby parking lot near Donovan and Mesa, technically right off of Crossroads. But you can also find them online anytime you want to. EnhancedFlavors.com is the place to find them to get all their varieties. And, well, let's just say it's worth it to know what they've got and how you can make it work for you. Again, the most recent one I picked up was the light balsamic vinegar jalapeno lime. And as soon as you crack that bottle, it hits you. It's not overwhelming with the spice, but it definitely get the great flavor out of it. If you want the spice and you want to get punched in the face by it, they can do it, but they got a whole swath of them here. I know some people are into that kind of thing. Good luck and Godspeed, because they will bring it and bring the flavors to you, because you can get it, of course, delivered here locally. Again, your local source. Don't have to go out of town anywhere to get it for you. Again, find them Arts and Farmers Market, Upper Valley. They're happening Sundays in the Hobby Lobby parking lot, or again, online, enhancedflavors.com. Get enhanced with a D, flavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the Gateway North, a stalled truck is blocking the right lane. Stay left there. I-10 westbound at Geronimo. Another stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Rich Bean Boulevard northbound at Zaragoza. Police working an accident there. And an injury accident downtown Stanton at East San Antonio. Take Paisano or South Campbell as your alternates. Gary Edwards, El Paso traffic.
It's $1,000 in your hand.
$1,000.
No NFTs or ESGs. It's $1,000 straight to you.
That is awesome.
Listen every hour from 9 through 5 weekdays for your chance to win.
A Grand in Your Hand is brought to you by Approved Auto. Drive out in your new ride in less than an hour. Get payments as low as $159 a month. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. If you got your license and you got a job, they smell a deal. The deals are sweeter at Approved Auto, 8498 Alameda.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
When I turned 65, I wasn't sure just how to go about getting my Medicare benefits. I tried to look things up on my own, but the websites were so confusing. I wasn't sure what plan or carrier would be best for me. But then I found Chapter, and they made everything so easy for me. Chapter compares thousands of Medicare insurance plans nationwide, and they were able to recommend the best plan for my needs. My advisor was so helpful. He helped me find a plan that covered my doctors and had an affordable monthly premium. I'm saving hundreds of dollars a year, and I get better coverage than my previous plan. And best of all, talking to my chapter advisor was completely free.
If you're turning 65 or already 65, you too can maximize your Medicare benefits. Call Chapter today at 800-455-3498 to speak to an advisor. That's 800-455-3498, because the best side of 65 should be your best chapter yet.
Are you wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it. My name is Dr. Moira Salaji. I'm the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And we want you to know it's important for all children 5 and over to get a COVID vaccine, because we know millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
You know, every 3 seconds there is a new victim of identity theft. A criminal could be applying for loans in your name, selling your personal information on the dark web. Now, protecting your identity can be very easy thanks to LifeLock by Norton. No one company can prevent all identity theft or monitor every transaction of every business, but LifeLock, it's simple and easy to protect yourself. And you'll save up to 25% off your first year when you go to lifelock.com or call 1-800-LifeLock. Just use the promo code Hannity.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at the show. We do have, of course, a lot of comments coming in over on the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk are the names you can find us under on those platforms. John Brazelton, Calvin Williams, Maria Coleman, Barbara Carrasco, and more tuning in, chiming in over there. You can welcome to do so throughout the show here. But speaking about local politics and all the stuff here, switching gears slightly here from one local governmental elected body to another, we are joined now by David Adams, GOP candidate for the El Paso County Commissioner's Court Precinct number 4. Thank you very much for joining us here today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Andrew. Glad to be here.
Absolutely happy to have you on, because talking about these issues, and particularly as we are coming up again on that primary runoff election, just in case people have not been keeping it straight in their minds, is just more than a little bit important here. So again, we've got that early voting starting this coming Monday, and then we've got the election date, May 24th. So just keep it straight, make sure you keep it in mind and mark your calendars, make your plan to vote here. So we, of course, have had you on the show previously to talk about your campaign and candidacy. But for those who may have missed the previous interviews or completely lost focus on this election, which, well, let's just say, given the most recent voter turnout, we're probably due for a refresher and reinvigoration of people going out to the polls here. So reintroduce yourself if you don't mind.
Well, Andrew, you know, I'm a local resident here. Been here since 1971. Family moved back up here. I run a construction company and a couple other businesses here, so I'm a local businessman. Been here for many years, and just seeing everything happen, you know, you want to make a difference. And now that my children have gone through the schooling and moved on, and now that my grandchildren now are of age, getting there, we're kind of, you know, looking at the future, and I want to leave a legacy, basically. As my family kind of gave me El Paso the keys to it, I'm just tired of seeing the way things are happening, and I threw my hat in the ring and was very fortunate and happy to move through the primary election, even though it was by 17 votes. We're very happy with where we're at right now. You know, very sad with the turnout. 11% was ridiculous. For people that are upset and want to make a real difference. I mean, if you really want to come out there, you really got to show support, no matter who you're voting for. At the end of the day, we've got to have you guys come out and support and support the voter, support the officials, and support the change that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way you put it here, I mean, it hurts me, because I was pleasantly surprised from my very jaded opinion that we hit 11% here. I was thinking it might have been a stretch for us to even hit double digits here. So I was both happy, but then in an absolute kind of sense here, yeah, this is not good. This is, well, pretty abysmal, actually. The fact that we can barely hit that amount, that we have, you know, just over 1 in 10 registered voters actually bothering to come out to the polls here when we got these big issues at hand. And given the amount of people that are otherwise saying that they are, well, that they're fed up and not going to take it anymore, the fact that they can't, I mean, this is kind of a basic for me. The idea of punching your ticket into public life starts with this. It's not an end, but it's a very important first step here. So that aside, and my soapbox over, we've got the few major issues that you focus on here, including stormwater in the Upper Valley. Now, this is something that, for those that have not really been involved with it, you may have heard about it, but seeing it, having gone out there myself at certain points and seeing the essential mudslides, there's no other better phrase I can think of it here, has caused really big issues for some out there. And this also kind of gets into some larger issues about infrastructure, but particularly on this issue, if elected to office, what are some of the major things you want to focus on?
Well, you know, seeing El Paso on a regular basis, running around town and driving around and meeting people and seeing things. I got to see the storm of 2006. They called it the 100-year storm.
Yep.
But realistically, these are happening more frequently now. We're probably getting on every 3 to 5 year cycle where these storms are coming in and causing severe damage. Now, to me, my issue is, why are we always being reactive to the problem and not proactive? My construction background, my experience in working with TxDOT, Louisiana Department of Transportation, and other entities, I feel gives me the upfront and close information on how to fix these problems we have. They're not that hard. These flooding issues are not that hard. They cost money, of course, and we're going to definitely need some funding for it. But I think if we have a good plan of action, and when you've got these people that are working with the county and the city that are talking lingo to some of these commissioners, they don't understand everything. Well, you know what? In construction, I'm going to be right up there with them and really understanding it, and be able to put my experience forward there.
Another issue that you bring up here prominently on your platform is law enforcement and backing our first responders here, and particularly noting protecting our borders and our streets and citizens here. That, of course, has gotten to, it was never unimportant, but increased prominence, even, I want to say, just since the primary election itself, with a lot more focus on some of the particularly state-level border security efforts that have involved, in many ways, either state troopers or even local law enforcement in some capacity. So when it comes to delving in that issue, what are your focuses for El Paso County Commissioner's Court?
Very good talking point there, Andrew. A thing that I see, look, right now we are coming through a pandemic that has awoken the beast. We never used to have real serious crime the way we're having it. And it's slowly spiking. And the reason why we're able to tap into it and keep it somewhat under control is our first responders, our law enforcement, our sheriff's department officers, our police department officers, our detective units. They're really keeping the border, Homeland Security, Border Patrol. All of those are very, very important to our area. And like the other party wanted to defund, we heard last year, it was a big thing, was about defunding the police and defunding our law enforcement. I think we're seeing that that's not going to help. And we need to really look at it and give them the tools that what we need. We're also losing manpower. We've got one of the greatest academies, I think, in the country here, and we're losing them because of pay. We're losing them to San Antonio, to Dallas, let alone outside of the state. So we're training them here, but we're losing them. Again, a business mind view says, okay, we need to keep our locals here. We need to keep our educated here. We need to start investing in ourselves and investing in the future.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is David Adams, GOP candidate for the nomination for the Precinct 4 El Paso County Commissioner's Court seat. Want to find anything more about him, his positions, the things we're talking about here, you can find him online, davidadams2022.com. That's davidadams2022.com. And of course, you're also on other online and social media outlets, right?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page. We're also on Instagram. And then if you go on the website, you'll be able to get my actual number, 333-9711, if you want, and call me anytime with any questions you have. That's our campaign phone line.
Absolutely here. So again, all the information there, and a lot of, again, the positions we're talking about, among other things here. So one more I wanted to get to here before we hit that first break of in between the interview here is that you mentioned a little bit about the COVID-19 aftermath and dealing with it now. Again, a little bit clearer as much as we can get in these kind of situations where it's day by day changes we're looking at. But now from this perspective, coming out of the primary, what are some of your focuses on dealing with that, and particularly what the county can do?
I think a big thing, and a lot of the candidates are jumping on board, but I've always been on for it, was mental health. We need some, we need screeners. We're going to need some physicians. The whole gamut is definitely going to be affecting this area more so in the upcoming months than it has been. We are in for, COVID did a pandemic number to us all. across the world, but it's starting to hit us home, and we need to be ready for it and function. And I'm going to be right there ready to give them the funding they need, listen to what problems we have, and try to educate, inform, and advocate for the people of El Paso County.
So again, important things to look at there, and of course a whole lot more impacts coming out of all of this. We're going to go ahead and take that next break of this hour right now. But coming out of this, we'll talk some more about some of those big issues that have been coming out again since the primary election itself and coming into the runoff here. So again, guest right now joining us in studio, David Adams, GOP candidate for the Precinct 4 El Paso County Commissioner's Court nomination. We'll be talking with him more, but sticking around with us and talking more about these issues. Coming out of this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, a lot of comments coming in. We'll maybe dip into some of those, but of course, the phone lines will be opening up end of next segment once we finish our conversation here. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. Frisco has announced its finalists for its city manager position, and El Paso's city manager is on that list. Tommy Gonzalez was listed among 3 others. Frisco's search for that position ended in March. The city of Frisco, which is a suburb of Dallas, is expected to name its new city manager at the end of May. Gonzalez was appointed El Paso city manager in 2014. His salary from the city of El Paso has increased from $238,959 to $404,377. Gonzalez's current contract ends in 2024. Gonzalez was recognized at El Paso City Council for a lifetime achievement in April. And Ascarate Park will be receiving 90 trees that will be planted at the park. The El Paso County Parks and Recreation Department announced that the donation will be received from the Downtown El Paso Lions Club and Echo El Paso. The Lions Club has invited the Master Gardeners and Echo El Paso to help with the planting.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
On the Gateway North, a stalled truck is blocking the right lane. Stay left there. I-10 westbound at Geronimo. Another stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Rich Beam Boulevard northbound at Zaragoza. Police working an accident there. And an injury accident downtown Stanton at East San Antonio. Take Paisano or South Campbell as your alternates. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We have 2 big things happening for us this week, and that basically means a front with winds coming our way and patchy blowing dust for your Wednesday, along with a cool down. So it'll be nice to go from those upper 90s on Wednesday back to near 90 on Thursday. The other big thing to look forward to will be this weekend with the possibility of our first triple digit.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. A staggering 8 million tons of plastic ends up in the world's oceans every year. If current trends continue, our oceans could contain more plastic than fish by 2050. Do your part. Purchase items made from renewable or recycled content and recycle whenever possible. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
The all-new Empower program at El Paso Children's Hospital is for children who are at risk for or who have been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. With a doctor's referral, you get dietitians, nutrition education, counseling, and more. The Empower program at El Paso Children's Hospital.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know. Hey, look.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. A lot of questions, a lot of comments coming in, but again, joined here in studio by David Adams, candidate for the GOP nomination for El Paso County Commissioner's Precinct 4. Going to be continuing our conversation with him about as many issues here. So if you got those comments, you leave them in there. We'll certainly get to some of them as possible. And of course, we'll be opening up those phone lines a little bit later in the program here. But again, David, thanks for sticking around with us here today.
Hey, just glad to be here, Andrew.
Absolutely happy to talk about these issues here. So, we do have a lot of different issues coming up at this outside of your specific platform, though related to a lot of what you're talking about as well. One of the biggest issues that has been coming out for El Paso County commissioners and really all the taxing entities within the area has, of course, been on setting those tax rates given the increase in property valuations that have been happening. I mean, if you want to pinpoint one big issue that people have been most concerned about when it comes to local government, that's been one of the major ones here. So what's your perspective on how you would even go about addressing that, again, if elected?
You know, Andrew, I really want to answer that question, but I want to just go back to something we started with, kind of a little bit about my background, a little bit about me real quick. That's going to lead into this is that I don't like to talk about my accomplishments. I'm very happy. I'm very blessed to be here. I've had a very good life, family man, grandpa now, and I want to pay it forward. And I've seen things through my trials and tribulations here in El Paso and around the world, around the country, I should say. And a thing that I see that really affects us is like these tax issues, like you're saying, these tax burdens. We are never going to be able, nobody is ever going to be able to lower these taxes down unless we get serious business in here, infrastructure. That's how you drop the number. No other reason, no other way. There's no magic bean here. We have to start investing in ourselves. And this is the time that we need to get away from politicians and political ways of doing things and go back to the way we started. Regular business people looking at this, because I guarantee you get business-minded individuals in here. We'll be able to balance budgets. We'll be able to look at these books. Because let me tell you something. You don't have to go to Harvard for 6 years to understand how to balance the books and how to look at budgets. I have $1 million company. I run budgets all the time. But let me tell you, if you're a housewife in suburban listening to this, or your husband, mechanic right now driving this car, if you have to run budgets for your business to stay afloat, then you're properly adequate to run for office. And you could run these budgets better than probably some of the politicians do. Because the politicians that come online and say, oh, I'm going to balance the budget and I'm going to fix the budget. All we do is say yes and no to the budget that's been worked on hard by the employees of the El Paso County government.
So it sounds almost like, because some of the conversation that's been had on this is a look at what we can cut kind of thing, but it almost sounds like you're saying we got to build our way out of this as opposed to necessarily just cut our way out of this.
Exactly, because what are we going to do? I want to cut some, I'm going to look at what programs we can cut when I'm elected, but we're going to irritate some people. So we've got to pay rob from Peter to pay Paul. Well, eventually that's going to catch up to us, just like these they just formulated this property tax rake up to cover themselves. Instead of doing a tax increase, they did it another way. Well, in 18 to 24 months, when these property taxes, property values start coming back down again, you're upside down. You've got issues. You're upside down your financing because you're not going to be able to get out of your loan what you're in the property. Now, you're covered if you're a homestead. You need to look into this, and you're covered if you're 65 or older. So those rates are locked in, but you need to, call your commissioners. You need to go down to the tax appraisal's office and find what your options are. We need to inform, we need to educate, and we need to work with our voters. And we're here to do that. I'm here to do that, especially. But the only way we're going to get out of this problem that we caused is for us to work together and stop feeding the beast. And that means we need to start bringing in serious infrastructure, as well as mom and pop. We need to start working on giving tax breaks to these businesses and get these businesses back in. We start increasing business, we start increasing tax money. That's going to lower the taxes. That's going to put more money to pay for our county and city employees. Simple.
Now, of course, County Commissioners Court took the stance of having a revenue-neutral budget the last time the budgetary process went through here, so that actually resulted technically in a drop in the tax rate, even if the money based on your valuation, home, all that kind of stuff, on average, stayed about the same here. So, again, numbers and the vagaries of them are interesting, but you end up paying about the same money on average here in El Paso. So, of course, now with these property rates going up, 15, 17%, give or take, depending on how many people actually go out and protest it, what would be what you're wanting to look at when it comes to actually, if elected, your first budget that you have to go through? I mean, among other things, with these rise here, there's the potential that even the rollback tax rate could be possibly under what even the current one is now.
I agree totally. And the first thing I want to look at, I want to go to the Central Appraisal District, and I want to see exactly how we're getting these numbers correctly. Because if you really understand the science, how they justify their numbers, it's ridiculous on a residential side compared to the commercial side. There are two different entities there, and we need to look at this. It goes back to this. You talked about our city manager. How we're going to get out of this? Let's stop spending foolish money and have city managers and his team making $1 million a year. Let's stop spending foolishly, and we can get out of this. But again, these tax hikes are there to cover themselves because we're behind $2 billion plus in debt in the county, and they're covering the C of O's by raising these rates up, saying, "Oh, we're doing this for you." No, they're doing it to cover themselves. Again, we need to get rid of the politicians that are in there that have done the damage.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is David Adams, candidate for the GOP nomination for County Commissioners Precinct 4. That's the one that represents largely northwest and a bit of northeast El Paso, across that straddles the mountain, kind of on the north end of the county here. So again, if you want to find anything more about him, his positions, campaign, etc., davidadams2022.com. Look for him similar under Facebook or Instagram here. So kind of related to what you were talking about there, kind of the concept of building our way out of this, but having to do it in a kind of a judicious manner. Infrastructure and growth kind of intrinsically entwined here. El Paso County, of course, grew from census to census, but at a reduced rate than from even previous times. I mean, one of the lowest rates since World War II here in El Paso County, and being just completely outstripped by essentially the rest of the state, which is why, among other things, we saw basically the movement out of our area of a, state representative seat here. It got largely encompassed, it's still technically right there on the edge of the county, but the bulk of it is outside of El Paso County, and therefore not really a power base here anymore, not really representing the major majority of the population in this area anymore. But then, of course, the county also has some slightly new infrastructure-related powers now. Coming out of the last legislative session, they were given essentially bonding authority that really was never existed before, because the county does not have the ability to pass ordinances. It has very basic things when it comes to land management. So these kind of new concepts, they're very intertwined here. So it's complicated, but just in general, dealing with these issues and in relation to what you talked about, how would you go about dealing with, again, growth and infrastructure?
Okay, again, I think this is something that we really need to have, is the power and able to control a few things, but we need to have business-minded individuals. Again, you give this to the politicians, that's just giving them cyanide and rat poison, and let them have fun, whatever they want to do. That's going to be more dangerous for us if the right people aren't in there to control what needs to be done. It's a shame that we've got building going on in Far East and West and Northeast, and we're getting penalized from it. We're not supposed to. We're supposed to, reap those rewards. We're supposed to have access and say our tax will come over because people are moving in. They're building all these properties. But here's the situation. We don't have any jobs that pay good amount of money. So when these kids come out of college, when these kids come out of these trade schools, when we graduate them from medical school and police academies, they go somewhere else. So we're losing people, we're losing families. And that's where we need to start investing in ourselves. Very simple plan, invest in ourselves. And 5 years, we start the seed. I'm against, for commissioners, I'm going to be a 5-year, I'm going to vote for no pay raises to any county commissioners. We need to stop spending money foolishly. To me, the county commissioners are making good enough money. I'll even donate some of my salary every month to a great need, a charity if we have to. because I'm doing it because I want to pay it forward and I want to be an advocate for the people, not a politician to the people. I want to work for the people. And the only way for somebody is for somebody to start coming up here and start doing the work. And I'm going to lead from example.
Again, if you want to find anything about him, davidadams2022.com. So, yeah, and then so specifically on those infrastructure powers, then, I mean, bonding authority is not something that the county has had the ability to do so. And bonds are, well, they're a particular own set of subjects and issues that come with them in El Paso County. Now, this would technically be outside of the regular tax rate setting authority that the county has. So what would be your philosophy on the use of that bonding authority or using it at all, in fact, in the, again, first term of office if elected?
Well, I think that we're going to need to go to Austin. We're going to have to talk with our political leaders and have real insight, real discussion, because I don't think that some of the individuals here, I don't think are educated enough right now on the political side to even understand what that means, Andrew. We need to go over there and we need to be trained and learn and understand the goods and bads. And business-minded individuals are already ahead of the game on some of this stuff. But we need to go to Austin. We need to start working together and then bring that back and work together with city and county officials in El Paso, regardless of party, and say, look, we've got a problem. Here's the overall picture. And that's how we'll build it, and they will come.
One final question here, one I think pretty relevant actually coming from RJ mentioning here, will you on mask mandates, because that was one of the more contentious issues that came out of county commissioners, I want to say, over this previous term of office. So what would be your thoughts, philosophy on that if elected, on should there be on any further mandates, essentially?
Follow the science. We need to talk to people. We need to educate people. We need to listen to what they want. We can't make demands. I don't think we were at that point when the judge did what he did. I was not a county commissioner. I was not even running at that time, so I can't speak for him. But I think telling somebody what they're going to do is wrong at the time we were at. I think we need to educate. We need to talk to voters. We need to talk to people. We need to talk to citizens. Hey, look, this is from a leadership standpoint. We have an issue here. We think that, what do you all feel about this? There's no discussion anymore here in El Paso. Everything is just being backdoor deals and lobbying for this and lobbying for that. Instead of, why are we not having any forums? Why are we not having any countywide, citywide meetings like we should on a more regular basis, and start calling in these people and hearing what they have to say? It shouldn't be up to, it shouldn't be up to the county commissioner or the judge to make those decisions. He should work alongside government officials as well as the public, but not make demands. So no, I'd be against that, but I would listen to what they have to say. I'm against the vaccine, but I took it because I wanted to for my grandchildren's sake. But I'm against the vaccine. I still am. I feel I have some possible side effects from it. We didn't test it enough, but I wanted to do what was right for my family, not what's right for everybody else, because that's what counts. It's what's in your home.
Absolutely here. So again, guest right now has been David Adams, GOP candidate for the Precinct 4 County Commissioner's Court nomination. You want to find out anything about him, davidadams2022.com. So David, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us about all these issues, the things going into it, and everything else that'll be coming up potentially in this election. Again, the important dates to remember here are going to be next Monday, the 16th, will be the start of early voting, and of course, Election Day on the 24th. So thank you very much for joining us here to talk about all that here today.
Hey, I'm just happy to come out here, and hope we got some listeners that really just pay attention and want to see a difference. That's how we're going to make the change. Please come out, no matter what, Andrew. Like we said early on in this interview, is we need people to come out and vote. No matter who you vote for, who you like. Right now, El Paso is in turmoil. You have a right and you have a chance to make a difference for your vote to count, whether you're Republican or Democrat. I don't care who you vote for. Of course, I'm going to love to get your vote. I'd love to have that and to believe in me. But please come out. Let's have a good turnout. Let's see a 25% turnout for the runoff. That would be very, very acceptable.
I would love to see that, and hopefully we'll get there. But again, we'll see what we'll keep our eyes on it and see what happens here. So thanks again for talking with us. We got to take that break right now. So coming out of this break, we're going to be talking more about these issues. We'll go ahead and open up those phone lines here. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Got a crash reported downtown El Paso that's slowing traffic on Paisano Drive eastbound at Stanton. A disabled vehicle is blocking the right shoulder on Trans Mountain westbound at Tom Mays Access Road. George Dieter Drive northbound about a block before Vista del Sol. An injury accident there. And another crash with injuries at Zaragoza at Edgemere Boulevard. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness, modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Bed Bath, and Walmart. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it? Want to know what a healthcare professional would say? I'm Dr. Gerald Harmon. I'm the president of the American Medical Association. So we want you to know it's important for all children 5 and older to get a COVID vaccine because we know millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is a leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. Coming up to the end of this first hour of the program, so we got those phone lines open right now. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Squeeze in one here quick before we have to that next break here. I do think a lot of comments coming in here. Calvin Williams, RJ, Maria Coleman, John Browston, Barbara Carrasco, and more tuning in, chiming in, also dropping those likes and reacts. Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, and Monica Cervantes. We do appreciate it here. A lot of commentary. One of the things Maria Coleman responds saying, giving companies more tax breaks is not the solution. This theory has been tried. The homeowner is left picking up the tab. Stop building massive schools and awarding big contracts. Young, educated residents leave due to low salaries, poor amenities, and exorbitant taxes. Interesting perspectives on there. And, of course, we'll be talking about that even further here in the rest of the hour of the show. But let's get at least to one call on the line here right now. We do have Tony on the west side here with us right now. Tony, thanks for joining us.
The views you're about to hear are mine and mine only. They do not represent the views of my wife or my children or the organization for which I work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this gentleman, Adams, I'm just going to say what comes to my mind, and I know I could be wrong, but let the listener decide. Here in El Paso, as soon as you say GOP candidate, you already have a death sentence, okay? Number two, the Democrats always win here in El Paso because they don't break the rules. You know, it's supposed to be a nonpartisan race for city council and maybe even for judgeships. I don't know. But the point is, it's Democrat only. These people are brainwashed Democrats. They'll fall over the cliff before they change their party affiliation. Number 3, about 5 or 10 years ago, they tried to sell us the same thing, that this investing in the structure, which is code for more spending. Remember the quality of life bonds that are still hanging in the air? Remember the quality of life spending and bonds that we've been suffering for the last 5-10 years, that half of them haven't been fulfilled, the other half was still low, and they keep growing on interest, and it was part of the baseball field. So when this seller comes in and says the way to lower taxes to spend more money, even though he used the code word is infrastructure, invest, that's what they've been doing to us, sir, for the last 10 years, telling us to invest in quality of life. And we have not seen our taxes go down. We see them go up. And we have not gotten the returns that we were supposed to get from the quality of life investments. So you might want to rethink your whole campaign, Mr. Adams. No offense. I'm a GOP myself. But you guys keep losing because you don't understand. The way to reduce is reduce spending. Get rid of those spending pigs in there in the downtown City Hall and so forth. They put little sidewalks and little trees and little bushes in the middle of streets that don't need it. They just spend crazy. That same thing with the schools. They show us the dilapidated roofs and leaky roofs and walls and things. But then when we give them the money, they build palaces and they build these extra add-ons and give the kids computers and all. They lie to us and they never lower taxes. So don't give me this thing about invest, because that's code for me. What that means to me is you just want to spend more money and raise our taxes. So we think the whole thing, we're sick of it. We're tired of it. We want people who spend our money the way we spend our money at home, which is to tighten the belt and not be such spending pigs. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Thank you for the point in the call there. Let me just say this here. I mean, you're certainly entitled to your opinion on some of these other things, but just want to point out the two major issues that you brought up there of the quality of life bond and then schools. Those are the taxing entities, where that's the city and the school districts respectively. And again, I'm not even saying I disagree with you on some of your analysis of these, but when it comes to the county, the actual infrastructure ability, like kind of we mentioned here, is very limited and practically brand new. It hasn't even really been tested that much. Previously, the major things from the county side of things in terms of infrastructure has been, well, on actual literal highways, streets, roads, etc. One of the major things that are involved in the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or better known as MPO more commonly, is one that this can, well, be that's the most involvement here. So on actual, like the Northeast Parkway that's been much talked about for years, will be more kind of along the lines here. But tell you what, we got to take that break right now, and we'll talk a whole lot more about this and all the issues going into it. So again, back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number, if you want to call on yourself, 915-544-5876. 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Checking your El Paso roadways for the afternoon. Got a crash report at Gateway Boulevard westbound at Hawkins. Paisano Drive eastbound at Stanton downtown. A crash is slowing traffic. Montana Avenue eastbound at McRae. Police still working that injury accident. And North Loop Drive at Penndale. Paramedics on the scene of a crash with injuries there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
On June 21st, finally returning to El Paso for one night only at the Plaza Theater. The greatest big band of all time, the Glenn Miller Orchestra. An evening of jazz, swing, and timeless classics.
Pennsylvania 65000.
From New York, the Glenn Miller Orchestra. Tickets on sale now at the Plaza Theater box office or online at elpasolive.com or ticketmaster.com.
Pardon me, boy. Is that the Chattanooga choo-choo?
Yes, track 29.
Boy, you can give me a shine.
Presented by DDA in collaboration with Sunny 99.9 and News Radio 690. The Glenn Miller Orchestra, June 21st at the Plaza Theater.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook.
Consumer debt is on the rise as Americans try to keep up with soaring prices. Data released by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York shows household debt increased by $266 billion in the first quarter of this year. Credit card balances rose $71 billion from 1 year ago. Mortgage, car loans, and student loan balances also increased. An escaped Alabama murder suspect and corrections officer planned to use weapons they reportedly had in their possession at the time of their capture.
Members of the U.S. Task Force basically rammed the vehicle and pushed it into a ditch. And we later found out, had they not done that, the fugitive was going to engage in a shootout.
Casey White and Vicky White, who were involved in a jailhouse romance, were captured yesterday in Evansville, Indiana. Vanderburgh County Sheriff Dave Wedding says Casey admitted their plan was to shoot police. An AR-15 rifle and 4 handguns were found in the Cadillac the couple was driving. Officials say Vicky White died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Casey White was taken back into custody. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Stocks are closing mixed after a roller coaster day on Wall Street. Markets struggled for direction after an early morning rally fizzled. Tech shares including Apple, Intel, and Microsoft led the Nasdaq higher following a massive sell-off. The Senate Majority Leader is fine with protesters making their voices heard outside the homes of Supreme Court justices.
My house there's protests 3-4 times a week outside my house.
New York Democrat Chuck Schumer said the protests don't bother him as long as they're peaceful. A study finds pandemic school policies were tough on parents' mental health. Researchers at Washington University in St. Louis found much of the pandemic school policy decisions were based on public health guidance without consideration of potential strain on working parents. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Prince Charles had to step in for his mother, the Queen, to speak to British lawmakers. Michael Kastner explains.
Her Majesty's government's priority is to grow and strengthen the economy and help ease the cost of living for families.
Prince Charles is outlining the British government's agenda instead of his mother, Queen Elizabeth. She missed the state opening of Parliament for the first time in nearly 60 years due to mobility issues. Buckingham Palace had previously said the monarch consulted with her doctors before deciding to miss the event.
Former NFL quarterback Brett Favre is facing new questions about his role in a Mississippi welfare fraud case. The State Department of Human Services yesterday sued Favre and several others for over $20 million in misspent welfare money. Favre is accused of accepting $2 million for speeches he never gave, eventually paying the money back. Disco and rollerblading are coming to New York City's Central Park. Natalie Migliori has more.
An immersive musical and theatrical roller experience dubbed Disco Oasis is set to open at the iconic Wallman Rink. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's Nile Rodgers will serve as the groove master by curating music. The event is set to run from June 16th to October, offering open skate sessions during the day and interactive experiences at night.
A New Jersey bear that roamed Sussex County with a plastic cone stuck on its head has been freed. The 89-pound yearling had been wandering around with a chicken feeder on her head for the last 7 or 8 months. Biologists from New Jersey Fish and Wildlife had been trying to trap her ever since folks who live near the Bear Swamp Wildlife Management Area in Frankfort Township spotted her last fall and posted photos of her plastic plight. When they arrived, they tranquilized the youngster, removed the cone, and placed ID tags in her ears. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Pay. That's pay. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
On the new true crime podcast Betrayal, a woman chronicles her fairy tale romance gone horribly wrong. When her seemingly perfect husband's secret life is uncovered, it destroys her marriage, shakes their community, and ultimately sends him to prison.
Going through Spence's emails, Snapchat, whatever I could get my hands on. Just a punch in the gut every single time.
Listen to Betrayal on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, That's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in through all that here as we delve into the many issues going on here today including Calvin Williams, RJ, Maria Coleman, John Brow, Sultan Barbara Carrasco, and more tuning in, chiming in, dropping those reacts over on the Facebook page. We do appreciate it. Calvin Williams, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, and Monica Cervantes just helps, in our mission to have live local talk radio here in the borderland and discuss the issues that affect us here, because no one else is going to talk about them the way we are. A lot of people are trying to tell us how we should think about various issues, and that hasn't exactly worked out now either, has it? Anyway, got phone lines open right now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Kevin Williams saying, give politicians a reason to help those that elect them make their pay equal to either the average or mean pay in their districts. Interesting perspective there, RJ. Appreciating the question that he put up there. And we asked of the candidate we had right now. Again, thanks to David Adams, a GOP candidate for the County Commissioner's Precinct 4. And, previous caller had made a point about GOP label being a political death sentence in El Paso. I'm not going to disagree with you in general, but specifically County Commissioner's Court, it's not necessarily so. In fact, Precinct 4, previously, back when my days covering county commissioners, more directly anyway, I used to actually get to go to all the meetings, really get in depth on the issues here. Andrew Haggerty was from the Republican persuasion in this issue. So it's not by rote that this is going to happen, but it's definitely about activating voters and getting people out there. So I always feel that the best candidate should win, the one that I feel is going to do best of it, regardless of party affiliation. And I think at least when it comes to county commissioners, there's maybe a little bit more of that. Yeah, maybe I'm projecting a little bit, but just saying that particularly for this seat, it is not necessarily a guaranteed another way here. Mary Coleman with a very astute question here, saying, prior to voting, ask yourself a basic question. Am I content with the status quo and the incumbent's performance? If not, it's time for a change. Repeating the same behavior and expecting different results is futile. Also, I think another way described as insanity, among other things. But yeah, again, there's the late great Casey Kasem used to say, if you're thinking things could be better, make sure you're registered to vote right now. Now, of course, for this runoff here, a little bit too late, but you can make damn sure that you are registered for November, because you want to talk about a consequential election here. Yeah, we'll find one. And I would love to be as also optimistic about 25% for this runoff here. Yeah, we'll see what's happening here. Calvin Williams saying that naming one other GOP candidate, one doesn't mean that he's wrong. Again, I'm not saying that he's totally wrong, but it's also not an impossibility. Yeah, take it with it as you will. Just know that you get what you vote you deserve for, but also that elections don't care about your feelings. If you feel super strongly that someone, they got to win here, but you don't actually do anything to do it besides voting, like voting is important. We need a lot more people to vote in this area, but also actual organization, getting involved, talking with your local party, maybe even registering as a precinct chair, all incredibly important steps to make this, more engaged here. But let's get back to those phone lines right now. We do have, again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, how you doing, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
First of all, amen to Tony. Everything he said is absolutely true. Andrew, it's no longer a conspiracy theory, okay? According to the Wall Street Journal article, ideological criteria will now influence credit ratings of state and local governments, thanks to S&P Global Ratings. In addition to rating governments on meaningful financial criteria, in March, the CEO and president of the biggest of the top 3 rating firms, S&P Global, began to apply ESG scores. This means even if your town or state have rock-solid financial ratings, but do you have non-gender bathrooms in your school? It's now moving past, we are going to boycott your All-Star game. Now your state or local government will now lose financial services unless you have a high ESG score. How does your state manage carbon emissions? How does your state manage political unrest stemming from community and social issues and adversity publicity that results in reputational risk? Mm-hmm. If your state or community speaks out on an issue on the wrong side of your state or community, doesn't speak out on the right side, or you pass some bill that gets national news and it is deemed by the global elites to be on the wrong side, your credit rating of your state or community will go down. This is starting with the states, and we'll go to what your businesses are you doing business with. States won't be able to do business with companies that have a lower ESG score. This means this will cut back from state business, any business not playing the woke game. Does this remind you of any other credit rating thing in the world, in any other country?
I mean, I think you're pretty clearly alluding to China there and their whole, what is their Orwellian name for it? I forget offhand, but yeah, their good citizenship score in which you can literally go through lessons from Mao and etc. in order to boost your rating there. I mean, yeah, it's a little ridiculous here, but the fact that it's getting to be a more implemented idea, I mean, them being one of the first ones to do it here, let me just say, I don't find a particular issue with the idea of having more inclusive, more accessible, more available for anyone, regardless of their situation, to be able to interact with systems. Find that to be an important goal. But this goes far beyond that, obviously. And there was a phrase that I got hit with the other day here that encapsulated in a way that I can't quite put into words. The way I really feel about this, that go woke, go broke. Because it's not just okay, let's make things inclusive. The entire idea of this, of that you have to be the most progressive, the most the most dealing with issues in the way that essentially, there's no better way to do it here, and I know I'm going to catch some flack for it, but online mob essentially descends and decides it is. Because even this idea of being the most progressive, again, wokeness here, but I kind of want to get away from that phrase because that has its own baggage with it, but the idea of having to be the most progressive, the most in tune with whatever the fragrance is, it's not even, I mean, I know some of them have called this like a graven idol, something to be worshipped here, but the thing and the difference between the idea of a truly like, something you're putting up as a, this idol that you will worship and everything will fix, it's not a static goal. It doesn't just stay there, and you can't just say, well, I'm totally fulfilling it because I've decided it. It's a moving target, and it moves so randomly and weirdly sometimes. So that's why we see things like, Netflix and other online streaming platforms that, yes, definitely reap some rewards when it came to people being more at home and using streaming services during the pandemic. But some of these issues that they've dipped a toe into or even dove in head first in some cases, now coming back to bite them in the butt because it's a moving target and you can't just declare yourself as in compliance with it and not expect to then have some come back on you, because even if it depends on the brand you're even subscribing to when it comes to this. So I fully agree with you that, yes, this is something that is happening and something that people are pushing here. Ultimately, I expect and frankly hope more than anything it's going to come back to bite them in the butt, because you can't just declare that, oh, we have met these criteria. It keeps moving, and there's always going to be someone pushing it to a further extreme is, well, the reason it doesn't work out.
Andrew, I think they're still living in the 20th century when those thoughts and issues were all front and center and everything. If you had a good credit score, you had a good financial background and everything else. Now these people are taking over, and they're telling us they're doing it. And what we have to do, you really do, anybody who's listening to this, you call your state representative, you call your governor, you call every one of your government people, and you tell them you want ESG eliminated from everything. ESG is nothing more a social credit system, just like in China. We need to get rid of it. It's got no place to be in a capitalist society, a Republican, a government that is supposed to be a republic, not a democratic state. We're supposed to be a republic.
And this doesn't even fit with either such of those ideals, I got to say here, because the idea that this, again, ever-shifting target that you have to be meeting, it starts getting, horseshoe theory comes into mind here. It starts circling back to just totalitarianism. And again, I get that you think that I'm a little bit behind the times on here, but let me just say, from the discussions that I've seen, the further you get along this and saying, well, I'm going to be the most progressive, the most woke, all of that kind of thing with it, well, it tends to eat their own, because there's always going to be someone trying to outdo it, and therefore saying, no, I'm the most, and you're problematic for this reason. Like, it's not even, once you get to the real extremes of it, that consolidate. It's maybe seen like from the outside of that this monolithic thing that if you're not, again, agreeing with them, you're going to get kicked out. They don't agree with themselves, is what I kind of come down to. So yes, this formalization and this creation of the standard here is certainly concerning here. I ultimately don't see it working out for them, because they'll end up being attacked from even the people that they think that they are pandering to in the long run.
I hope you are right. Unfortunately, I think you're wrong. I think that when you say, if you're not woke, go broke, these people, the elites, are saying, if you're not woke, you will go broke. And they have the power to do this. And they have they put all these things in place for years and years, and now they for years and years they have not said anything out front, but now they're out front saying that this is going to happen.
And again, I get entirely what you're saying here, and I certainly hope that this trajectory won't continue here. But let me just say it here, that what really is going on is that, sure, they may be in control of this kind of a thing, but the standard that they are applying here is one that they are inherently not in control of, because they are trying to say that, again, woke is the best phrase for it, even if that's a terrifically fraught phrase. They're not in control of it because it's constantly shifting. So I think that's the inherent problem with this entire tact being taken, and why, among other things, here in Texas, we have laws already targeting the basically not allowing this to be a part of corporate governance, among other things. So I understand that you're concerned about this. I certainly have my level of concern as well, but I don't think that it's as stated and stolid as, well, they've done this, therefore it's over, is where I come down on it.
That's at your own peril. If people out there do not call their state, local
absolutely
government, you have to do it, and you have to tell them that you're fully aware of these ESG scores and you need to get rid of them, especially at the city level, because that is where that's our city council. They are woke. They are going to do everything. They're going to spend money, make us go broke. That's what this is all about. Making the normal everyday citizen not have any say or going broke.
I fully agree with you on that point here. People need to get involved. People need to take stock of their situation and get involved. I think that, among many other things, where this passes through, I think really, you take the local situation, writ most large nationally, on the idea of people just aren't paying attention. They're just expecting it, it'll keep going the way it's going and whatever, I'll just deal with it. People got to get over that, and they got to get past it, because, this is the stuff, that kind of thing that can happen, even if, again, I think structurally it is doomed to failure, because, it starts getting Orwellian, ridiculous, and their double think isn't a thing. It can't be, because people live their lives and say what they want to. So, but really to make so that this can't even be in place for any period of time is going to take people getting involved. We'll fully agree with you on that there. So thank you for the point in the call. We got to take that next break right now. Got a little bit over here, but we got more calls in line, more comments, a whole lot more that we will get to here as we continue with the show. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. With all the big issues we talk about, it can get real easy to get worked up about serious things, but don't forget in the meantime to take care of yourself. There is a very good reason that we now have Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon as the official hair and beard sponsor of the show. It's because I trust them with all the hair in my head, and frankly, I look forward to the experience. Yeah, you might not be thinking, oh, getting a haircut, it's just kind of a chore thing. I mean, that's a completely different experience. If that is your thinking on here, you need to go to Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa, because they will change your thinking, because it is a great experience every time I go in there. I've already got my next appointment scheduled to make sure I can get on the time on my schedule. Usually go right after our program here in a couple of weeks now coming up, and they've got everything that you want here. I mean, they're expert hair and beard trimming services, all the way up to, of course, their gift cards and their king for the day. Don't forget about Father's Day coming up. Give Dad what he really wants, a great grooming experience. Let me just tell you about my experience. I go in there, get my drink of choice here, sit down in the chair here in this beautiful old troll. Literally, you just got to see the pictures of the place. You can find them online at gentsrepublic.com. That's GENTS Republic.com. And of course, you can give them a call by dropping them a line at 915-532-3000. That's 915-532-3000. And make sure you get yourself taken care of. gentsrepublic.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Checking your El Paso roadways for the afternoon. Got a crash report at Gateway Boulevard westbound at Hawkins. Paisano Drive eastbound at Stanton downtown. A crash is slowing traffic. Montana Avenue eastbound at McRae. Police still working that injury accident. And North Loop Drive at Penndale. Paramedics on the scene of a crash with injuries there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
Wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it? Want to know what a healthcare professional would say? I'm Dr. Gerald Harmon. I'm the president of the American Medical Association. So we want you to know it's important for all children 5 and older to get a COVID vaccine, because we know millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is the leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screenforlife for more information.
This is Matt Crowder live at the gas station on 41st Street, reporting on those skyrocketing gas prices. Excuse me, miss, are you buying less gas now because of the high prices?
Oh, I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute, are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas.
Well, does that actually add up to anything?
I've made around $200.
Wow. Well, there you have it. Stop paying full price for gas. Download the free Upside app and get real cash back every time you buy gas. This is Matt Crowder Radio News Network. Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code DRAG for a $5 bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code DRAG for a $5 bonus on your first tank. That's code DRAG.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Despite some, I'm going to not quite call them sabotage efforts, but Calvin Williams saying everyone needs to write something to make me laugh on air, at least get them to smile. That'll look a little stressed here. Hope it's not coming through. I mean, we deal with serious issues here, but yeah, you keep putting these things in the corner of my eye here, because we got a lot of other serious things going on as well. Catherine Cordry saying that Congress giving Ukraine another $40 million. Actually, wrong first letter there. Billion with a B is what has actually been pushed up towards now after even being separated from the COVID-19 funds. That is still increasing here, but a lot of other issues we're discussing here. RJ calling out the idea of weaponized speech and ideology. Must think the way we tell you. Yeah, and that's never going to fly with me anyway. And so, okay, maybe some of the ways we talk about this is just my personal defiance, because, anyone saying that, no, you're not allowed to talk to that. First of all, they can pound sand. And second of all, I'm just going to talk about it more. Like, that's a bad plan, really. And we're going to keep doing that as long as we can here on this kind of a program here. But RJ also saying that the Northeast will elect GOP candidates, military and some others have good sense, and that the communism isn't taken hold. But I mean, let's just say it's not a given. I know there's been some talk from a local Republican Party about the increase in voter turnout, still fairly outstripped by Democrat voter turnout. But I got to say that basic get out the vote campaigns are going to be crucial, I think, going forward, if only for our local area. Because getting people actually knowing why it's important to go out to the polls, just ever so slightly important here. But let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast in line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. I congratulate and say right on to all these folks who are running for public office. It's a lot of work, and in many ways a thankless job. Your show's Facebook fan and poster, John Brazelton, has asked me more than once why I'm always talking about past events and presidents who are no longer in office. Mm-hmm. And then Brazelton asked me to share President Biden's accomplishments. As you know, Andrew, I have periodically voiced President Biden's accomplishments on your show. Mm-hmm. And as to Brazelton's claim that I always talk about past events and presidents no longer in office, well, Brazelton, that's not true. You're wrong. I admit that I frequently and regularly talk about Trump and his failed presidency because America is still feeling the negative effects of his disastrous presidency, political presence, and persona. But I don't always talk about Trump and his scandals and criminal investigations and lawsuits. And another reason I regularly talk about Trump is because his sex and business scandals, criminal investigations, and lawsuits are regularly in the news. Trump is the putative head of the GOP. Trump is out doing rallies, playing kingmaker, and Trump hasn't said that he isn't running for re-election. There's also a flood of former Trump insiders hawking their tell-all books, sharing with the world the mad world of Trump world. And finally, Trump affected El Paso by ripping off our poor city for $600,000 in unpaid rally security costs, and his racist, xenophobic rhetoric incited a Trump terrorist to kill 23 people in El Paso. Now, would you agree with me, Andrew, that Trump is the putative head of the GOP?
In simple answer, well, yes and no. Him being the overwhelming specter of that next presidential run, I mean, it's all about the money right now is what it simply comes down to. If he wasn't bringing in money through these rallies you talked about, he would not have a place where he is right now. But also, he is bringing those prospective voters here. But that last point there, as always, got to fully disagree with you on. The idea that this is something that he was an active participant in, the August 3rd attacks, make no mistake, heinous individual that perpetrated these and certainly took some inspiration from things, which is why it's very important for any elected official, anyone in the public light, putting their thoughts and ideas out there, to be careful what they say and what they wish for more than anything, because if you're not thinking that there's an impact and people won't take it, even if you're just saying, well, I was just speaking rhetorically or as a device or speaking, extremely to make a point here, that has real impacts on people. And even if there's a definable small percentage, 0.0001, whatever, that will actually then take it up on that, as we've seen more people on this planet. I mean, there's more than double the amount of people there are on this planet that there were during the Kennedy administration, is a stat I think about quite a lot here. There are going to more people take up on this. And I think there have been more than a few politicians playing with fire lately, former president included, that have got to think that there are consequences for the speech and the action. People will take them at their word, essentially, here. But to draw then a direct line to that, saying that this was something encouraged by him, I'm always going to disagree with you on that point. I do find it a little bit funny that in you saying you don't always talk about him, you're still talking about him here. I mean, we're kind of in broken clock twice a day kind of thing for the times it doesn't come up here. So really, to say that this is something that needs to be constantly revisited, frankly, I don't care what is being talked about. If someone's calling up and saying the same thing every day, we're going to choose to move on at certain points here, because that's just bad radio. So I hope against hope, as I say everything, that people will come in and make specific debatable points and something we can really get into. But, well, let's just say that hope will continue at certain points here. Anyway, we're going to move on here from that point for the day and continue on with that next break here. Again, if you want to call in during the show, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. Frisco has announced its finalists for its city manager position, and El Paso's city manager is on that list. Tommy Gonzalez was listed among 3 others. Frisco's search for that position ended in March. The city of Frisco, which is a suburb of Dallas, is expected to name its new city manager at the end of May. Gonzalez was appointed El Paso city manager in 2014. His salary from the city of El Paso has increased from $238,959 to $404,377. Gonzalez's current contract ends in 2024. Gonzalez was recognized at El Paso City Council for lifetime achievement in April. And Ascarate Park will be receiving 90 trees that will be planted at the park. The El Paso County Parks and Recreation Department announced that the donation will be received from the Downtown El Paso Lions Club and Echo El Paso. The Lions Club has invited the Master Gardeners and Echo El Paso to help with the planting. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Checking your El Paso roadways for the afternoon. Got a crash report at Gateway Boulevard westbound at Hawkins. Paisano Drive eastbound at Stanton downtown. A crash is slowing traffic. Montana Avenue eastbound at McRae. Police still working that injury accident. And North Loop Drive at Penndale. Paramedics on the scene of a crash with injuries there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We have 2 big things happening for us this week, and that basically means a front with winds coming our way and patchy blowing dust for your Wednesday, along with a cool down. So it'll be nice to go from those upper 90s on Wednesday back to near 90 on Thursday. The other big thing to look forward to will be this weekend with the possibility of our first triple digit.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples Print and Marketing Services help small business print big with wide format signs and banners. Right now, get $10 off custom printed signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. Offer ends 7/2. Visit staples.com/thisisyoursign for details. This is your sign to print big at Staples.
They're here, circling over your head, and are tracking you down. You feel overwhelmed, like you can't escape. You need a solution to get your back taxes filed, to put your life back on track. You need someone who can keep the vultures at bay and work directly with the IRS to leverage every opportunity to settle your debt. Edward Areola of United Financial Services is licensed to represent you before the IRS. Don't let the IRS threaten you. You should never need to speak to them directly. Edward does that for you. United Financial Services will help settle your entire IRS tax debt for up to 85% off the original amount owed, including penalties and interest if you qualify. United Financial Services, family owned in El Paso, can be a lifesaver for you. Call 915-500-3255, 915-500-3255, or go to UnitedFinancialEP.com. Call 915-500-3255 now.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson podcast now.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson podcast.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in through that way, but also want to remind you we do have that phone line open. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. I'm getting a note here, and that someone mentioned it as well. Apparently, there's maybe some audio issues happening with us on air. We'll try to track that down with. You can definitely get us through if you're on the iHeartRadio app. Even just go to KTSMradio.com. If you got a computer there for us, just look for the live listen link here. Have to see if we further track that down. But we're still here doing our thing, but we'll give it a shot either further ways here. Some more comments coming in, even split opinions on some callers and certain things here. But a lot more comments coming in. Fred Marquez, Joey Carlson, John B. Hogan, Calvin Williams, Catherine Codry, Fred Marquez, I did say that already, RJ, and a whole lot more, Barbara Carrasco as well. And, of course, giving us those reacts, likes on the page, which we do appreciate it. Calvin Williams, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, and Monica Cervantes here. So we'll get to more of the comments and such coming in here and further notes here. But again, the number to call 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we all know the results of Saturday's votes, but I just wanted to report I was an election judge here on Warriors at the Community Connection Center, and we did have 25% more people voting Saturday than we had at the last election, so that was an improvement.
Okay.
We were glad about that, but it still makes for a long day.
Yeah.
And so today I attended the city council meeting. I was just, stunned at times at the total disrespect for one another that I saw on city council, and Mayor Lisa trying to shrug it off and deal with it. And so they have a parliamentarian who tells them what they can be discussing on emotion, and they look at her and then they ignore her and proceed discussing whatever they want to say. And Mayor Lisa politely reminds the young lady, you can only discuss the motion on the table. And she looks at him and turns, and then she keeps on with her sentence. And I'm thinking, what's the sense of having order if nobody's going to follow the order, or the people who are in charge of telling them, or are basically their supervisors? Just sheer respect. That's why you're there. Be respectful to people around you, and the young lady who's a parliamentarian. So that was very discouraging. But there were a lot of people. There was a lot of passion, needless to say, on both sides. But I've got to say the majority were pro-life people there. I didn't talk about the pro-life side of it because I knew there was going to be a lot of emotion there anyway. I discussed the purview that the city had, and if they had any legal authority whatsoever to deal with the abortion rights, which they don't, and discussed the leaked Supreme Court opinion. And then we had a recess, and I asked one of the councilmen, is it possible to put a motion on the table to remove item 13 from the agenda?
Mm-hmm.
And he was not sure he could do it, but then after we went back into session, he must have discussed it with the city attorney, which she allowed it. Mm-hmm. Needless to say, the motion it failed. But we spent a lot of good dialogue on it, discussing the motion. But at the end of the city council session, and you walk away with, it's either serendipitous or you walk away, it's a grain of salt, or with you walk away pessimistic with what advice you got. I did have an opportunity to talk to the attorney, like I said, the city attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And, she gave me some advice that made me feel there's still an opportunity to change some of the terminology in this commission or board setup. But I walked away thinking, well, am I supposed to be optimistic, or is it just feed the public what they want to hear and then you go over there and you spin your wheels? Because it's, like I said before, we go in there, we make comments, we ask questions, but there's no interaction between you and the council person. But there's a lot of interaction amongst the city council members. So there's such a drawback. And this isn't just El Paso, it's worldwide, or, that's just how city council meetings are conducted, unfortunately, for the citizen. And what's even more unfortunate is when you have far left-leaning people, the majority of them in our city council, and you can't seem to get a straight answer. Or it's like, for instance, my city councilman, he didn't care. They were in and out of that session, and it's like they've already made up their mind. They don't listen to the constituents. There may be something that somebody says that may make an impression on them and may just a light bulb go on and they change their view on an issue. They don't do that. They're walking around. They're, going to the back, visiting with other people, walking out the door, heaven knows what for, coming in, taking it so casual. And we're there, serious citizens on a serious issue. Respect us. I mean, we vote for you, for God's sake. But that's not what I saw at the city council meeting on such a critical issue. And so that was very, very disappointing. And this isn't my first time at a city council meeting, I have to say. It's not the first time I speak at city council. But they are very discouraging, and they're very tedious days. You sit there 6 hours listening. Yep. We're being respectful of our city leaders. They should reciprocate. What is so hard about reciprocating someone's respect? So that was a long day, and I was sort of discouraged and yet optimistic at the same time. So a mixed bag of goods, I guess you could say. But regarding Raul's remarks on President Trump, if there was anybody in this administration that had an inkling of integrity, they would be focused on Hunter Biden and President Trump and their financial dealings and his daughter and James Baker and Perkins and Coie and Sussman, and the list goes on and on. But because they're focused on white supremacy, parents as terrorists, CRT, and all this other stuff, they're not focusing on what is basically ruining our country. They're not focusing on the border. They're not focusing on our schools. All these important things, critical things that make a country. That's off the table. Every time you hear them starting a new program or whatever it is, it's always a downer for the American people. Like, we are the terrorists. They need to keep us down. Our voice shouldn't be heard because we're nothing but disinformation and misinformation. And come 2024, come 2022, we need to send a resounding message that we matter. Our country matters. Our families matter. Our children matter. And regarding the gentleman that was just talking to you regarding his county commission run, my daughter has been in Houston 2008. My son left in 2015. That's how long I've been hearing we need to bring jobs. We need to train our good jobs to keep our kids in El Paso. Stop with that. You're not doing it. At least I know since 2008, it hasn't happened. How can he expect us to believe that it's going to happen under him? Things don't change at the city. And for them to keep going out there and saying, this is what I'm going to do, give us a different message. Something new that we can build hopes on and move forward and go and cast our vote gladly for an individual. Stop with the same old, I'm going to bring jobs, I'm going to keep their kids here in El Paso. It's not going to happen. I may be pretty sarcastic today because I had a long day at the city council, but that's how many parents feel. Our kids are gone. Mm-hmm. You're not going to do it, and you haven't done it in the past. So quit with the false promises. Thank you, Andrew, for listening to me and taking my call.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of good points here today. And just as a further follow-up here, you're talking a lot about national issues there with elections here, but just as a reminder, hasn't been on the ballot right now, is not on the ballot for this runoff election, but there are a number of city council positions up for election here. District 1, District 5, District 6, and District 8. So about half the city council, they will be up for election this year, and respectively, those seats held by Peter Svarsbein in District 1, Isabel Salcedo in District 5, Claudia Rodriguez in District 6, and Cecilia Zaraga in District 8. So, just as a reminder, those will be coming up here in the November election. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about these things. And yeah, city council, let me just say it this way. City council meetings are not there to deal with the public. I mean, they happen in the public. There are certain public meeting requirements they are, but literally it's there to vote on things and move things forward. So it's almost as much as I fully support people going out and speaking truth to their elected officials, their truth, their perspective, those things, it's not set up for it. Really, what needs to be demanded is that city council members have individual sessions out in their communities, in their districts, because that's the point in time in which, yes, they need to be available and listening to you. So that's, let's just say, part of how I judge the effectiveness and the qualifications for an elected official, particularly those already sitting, is how do they interact with their constituents? If it's only in scheduled meetings and the meetings aren't that scheduled, well, that's an issue for me. And if it's something where they are going out there, I mean, I may have had issues with previous elected officials, but on the balance, those that are out in the community, holding meetings, making themselves available to feedback of all stripes, that's what I find at least influential in my thinking about an elected official here. So, I mean, thank you for going out to the meeting and participating in the process, even if you found it a bit frustrating, having covered those meetings and been for the duration of them myself in the past. Yeah, frustrating would be an understatement, but we'll get to that more in the future here. So thank you for the point and the call here. Let's squeeze in one more quick one before we hit this next break here. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Frankie.
Hey there, Frankie. What's on your mind?
Well, I want to chime in on this abortion thing. And I want to, secondarily reiterate all of what Howard Stern said about the whole stick about it, But I would say, this is sick. This is beyond obscene. And it's a fact of life that this current crop of conservative Republicans have just turned over this whole thought process of the political regimen and correctness of how we do things in the United States of America, turned it over to the religious nut job. And I want to say this, and it's a fact of life. You want to go have all these little kids, force these women to have these kids, and as soon as they're here, hey, guess what? You're on your own. I'm sorry you need welfare. I'm sorry you need this. I'm sorry you have that. And then the kid turns out to be a whack job, and he kills people, and then all you religious conservative nut jobs, you want to go take them down to Huntsville and execute them. So what kind of stupid nonsense thinking is this? That's what I want to know.
I mean, that is something that I think, well, the first part anyway. The second part is a little bit different. I doubt that the death penalty will be leaving Texas anytime soon, even if other states are having their own issues with the technical application of it here. But Texas Republicans, again, article from the Texas Tribune out this week, Texas Republicans say if Roe falls, they'll focus on adoptions, but also in preventing women from seeking abortions elsewhere. So a mixed bag depending on your perspective there. But again, the one quote that I found the most interesting from that article, that the dogs caught the car, quoting Republican Representative Steve Toth from the Woodlands here, that, they can't just say, well, mission accomplished, we're done with this issue and move on, because that's going to come back to bite them in the butt absolutely here. So thank you for the point in the call there. Do appreciate it. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of the break, we'll squeeze in what we can, talk to you more about some of these issues we got coming up and more of what we got planned for you on future editions of the show. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Of course, your host, Andrew J. Polk. Don't forget about that talkback feature on the app as well. All I ask is if you're holding down that mic, just say your name so we know how to contact you or what to call you. But back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Gateway Boulevard westbound at Lee Trevino. Watch for an injury accident slowing traffic. On the 10 westbound at Viscount, an accident reported there. On the Border Highway eastbound at the 54 Patriot, disabled vehicles blocking the right shoulder. And Pelicano westbound at Sunfire Boulevard, an injury accident. First responders still on the scene there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Boost your IQ by listening to Red Pilled America, the best storytelling podcast in the country. This week, we tell the story of one of the most important culture wars in modern history, Gamergate. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
Wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it? Want to know what a healthcare professional would say? I'm Dr. Ada Stewart, Board Chair, American Academy of Family Physicians. We want you to know it's important for all children 5 and older to get a COVID vaccine, because we know that millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Host of the hit true crime podcast Dr. Death and Bad Batch comes a brand new unbelievable story. Sympathy Pains investigates the shocking tale of one woman, a former nurse, who spent nearly 20 years faking illnesses and tragedies until her victims confronted her on national television.
Sarah DeLashmit told people she had leukemia or muscular dystrophy, even Ebola. She knew enough to be convincing, but it was all a lie.
Listen to Sympathy Pains on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Matt Crowder live at the gas station on 41st Street, reporting on those skyrocketing gas prices. Excuse me, miss, are you buying less gas now because of the high prices?
Oh, I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute, are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas.
Well, does that actually add up to anything?
I've made around $200.
Wow. Well, there you have it. Stop paying full price for gas. Download the free Upside app and get real cash back every time you buy gas. This is Matt Crowder Radio News Network. Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code DRAG for a $5 bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code DRAG for a $5 bonus on your first tank. That's code DRAG.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. Rounding the bend on the last bit of our show here for the day, but don't worry, we'll, of course, be back tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. Coming up for you tomorrow, we're going to be visiting again with our news partners over at KFOX 14. More on, well, the local investigative reporting here, and, of course, the stories that have been out, today and among others. So be sure to tune in for that as we talk further with Estefania. And also more focus on the elections coming up for you later in the week. So stay tuned for all of that here on News Radio 690 KTSM. We're going to squeeze in a couple more. A lot of comments have been coming in this whole time. Again, the people dropping the reacts, we do appreciate. Fred Marquez, Calvin Williams, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, and Monica Cervantes. And more comments coming in. Some assumption that there may have been something slipping past me. Listen closely what we were talking about there. I don't think we may have gotten close to sounding like another phrase, but I don't think we got there. But in any case, let's get to those last couple of calls here we got on the line. We do have Tom on the west side here with us right now. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thanks, Andrew. Andrew, on the interview you did with the gentleman that's running on, I guess, Precinct 4, I forget his name right now, but did he say that the county is $2 billion in debt? Is that what we...
I think it was referring in general to the taxing entities in El Paso County as being in debt. I mean, quality of life bond, among other things, certificates of obligation, which the city has put forth here. So I think he was speaking about it generally, not specifically the county of El Paso as a body, but more as a local debt load to be concerned about.
Yeah, would you consider doing part of a show or getting another guest on where we can go through these numbers on the county? Maybe we get the county judge on so we can get completely informed with where we stand on the numbers. I mean, is that something you'd consider?
Yeah, no, definitely that's something we consider if there's interest in it. I'm always willing to consider it here. So I'll have to see what we can put forth here because let's just say numbers don't play the best on radio, but talking about the issues and putting it in as round figures as possible, it can probably be a pretty good way to get people understanding the situation here. So, well, definitely something to consider. I appreciate the suggestion.
Yeah, well, El Paso, this is our opportunity this year. I mean, we're crazy if we don't try and get Irene Armendariz Jackson in office from over Veronica Escobar, because I would venture to say a lot of that debt in the county is coming from University Medical Center, University of the Children's Hospital. That's been in debt from day one. And I'd love to just get better informed on where we are with what our obligations are to the county hospitals. So that's all I have right now. Thanks, Andrew, and take care.
No, I appreciate the point of the call. You have a good one there. I think we squeeze in one more quick one. We do have a Jim on the west side here with us. Jim, we got about 1 minute.
I'll try to squeeze it in. Frankie, you're listening. Not only I'm one of those lunatic, conservative, religious folks that you just mentioned a minute ago. But I also would like to make it known that it's a natural baby with a different DNA than the mother, a heartbeat, and a brainwave, at which point it's a human being and has nothing to do with what you claim. But quickly on 18 U.S. Code subsection 1507, again, 18 U.S. Code subsection 1507, all that are outside of the Supreme Court justices' homes should be arrested by the DOJ, but of course they're not going to be because they're Democrats. But the thing is it's there, it's in writing, it's a federal crime to do that. You can read it, and it's straightforward. You cannot intimidate judges over an upcoming decision, and you cannot go to their residence, and you cannot do it outside the Supreme Court either, for that matter, in intimidation and to try to change their minds. So there it is, 18 U.S. Code, Section 1507. I guess that's all I have time for, Andrew. Have a nice day.
Yeah, appreciate the point. You have a good one there. Yeah, let me just say, anytime you're going to do anything involving a judge that is not in their courtroom in proper order, you're probably going to have a bad time. I've had some experiences of my own, not even as a member of or participating in that court proceedings, but we'll have to get into that in a future show here because we are out of time here for this program. We got a lot more we'll talk about the rest of this week as we are, of course, on 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a good one.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Gateway Boulevard westbound at Lee Trevino. Watch for an injury accident slowing traffic. On the 10 westbound at Viscount, an accident reported there. On the Border Highway eastbound at the 54 Patriot, disabled vehicles blocking the right shoulder. And Pelicano westbound at Sunfire Boulevard, an injury accident. First responders still on the scene there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Our homes, we protect them from intruders with security systems. But there's another kind of intruder most people aren't aware of until it's too late. Home title thieves. When a criminal transfers your home title to a fake identity and steals your title, no one will notify you. Not the police, not even your bank. Sadly, people find out when it's too late, when their home is sold out from under them, or the eviction notice comes. That's when the legal nightmare begins. You need Home Title Lock, America's leader in home title protection. For just pennies a day, Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier of protection around your home's title with 24/7 monitoring. Cyber technology has made it easy for criminals to steal your home. Home Title Lock alerts you if your home becomes their target. Make sure you're not already a victim. Go to mytitlelock.com and for a limited time, get your free title scan and complete title report. $100 value, free with sign up. Just go to mytitlelock.com. That's mytitlelock.com.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Stay informed at KTSMradio.com. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Stocks are ending the day on a mixed note. Tech shares led the Nasdaq higher as markets struggled for direction. The Dow fell for the fourth day after giving up a nearly 500-point gain early in this session. The Dow Jones lost about 85 points to 32,160. The S&P 500 rose nearly 10 to 40,01, and the Nasdaq gained 114 points to 11,737. The Pentagon is emphatically turning down the idea that the Russia-Ukraine conflict is becoming something else with the U.S. involved.
Have they engendered, and rightly so, the support of the United States and so many other nations in